I used to have a supervisor when I was in the fire department whose go-to rationale for ladling yet another project, some little busy work bullshit that he wanted done, was takes 5 minutes. Okay, it's not a problem. Just takes 5 minutes. And it was always lost on him the fact that there weren't enough 5 minutes in the day to do all of the things that he was talking about, because those 5 minutes were allocated to other things that needed to be done too. So one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of my colleagues and friends in social justice issues particularly is that in terms of fundraising, in terms of efforts, whatever their pet projects are, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean the projects that they've determined are the most important for them, for whatever reason, are those things that hey, it's 5 minutes, man. What, you can't spare 5 minutes to do this thing? And it's true in the same way that this captain was what he was saying was true. Yeah, it does only take 5 minutes, and sure, well, actually, most of the time he was full of shit. It would take a lot more than 5 minutes, but the fact of the matter is that, especially when it comes to social justice work, there is always another hole to fill. There is no amount of time, money, or effort that can't be swallowed by worthy causes. And so when you approach somebody who, and the other thing that I've noticed is that when it comes to people who do social justice work, they're always doing it. It's not like they need somebody to twist their arm. The ones that are doing it are the ones doing most of it. It's not evenly distributed. So if you're trying to get somebody who's already interested in social justice work to get on your particular bandwagon, I'm always perplexed at the 5 minute argument when people hit me up and say, hey, can you do this? This is a worthy cause. Absolutely, it's a worthy cause, but it's not my worthy cause necessarily, and that's a tough thing for a lot of people to hear, because they've convinced themselves that their particular issue is the hinge pin in an entire memeplex of problems and social ills and things like that. And maybe they're right and maybe they're wrong, but I have my own ideas about what those things are, and I would posit that most people who actually have done some real social justice work have their own ideas about what the underlying causes are and how to avoid getting swallowed up in busy work and 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there. And I mean, just one area where that comes up a lot, I think, is there's a lot of people who talk a good game about education as being the underlying root cause of a lot of social ills, and like all of these things, there is some truth to it, but that's not the whole game. If everybody was, I think that's kind of like the economist's fallacy of fantasizing that people are perfectly rational, and if they just had all the information. I mean, the economists do it even worse. They act like they are not only perfectly rational, but they have all of the information at their disposal at all times. So making that mistake in this case is suggesting that people, if they just had the correct education, correct by whose standard, that's a whole different issue, but if everybody just had a good education, all of these problems wouldn't be so intractable in the world. I think that one of the things that comes up a lot for particularly people who are a bit more conservatively bent is this idea that liberals or progressives just want to pretend that people aren't assholes and can create a utopia. And again, there's some truth to that, but I think that where the lie becomes obvious for people that use that argument that progress is a bullshit idea by virtue of the fact that human beings are constantly going to fuck systems up, which is true. That assessment belies the fact that progress, at least in short terms, at least within certain areas, can and does and has happened forever. So yes, voting is bullshit, but it is and has been proven to be effective in certain locations at certain times. For instance, education is a huge issue, but in my estimation, it's not the underlying issue. The underlying issue has more to do with with this tendency of people to be assholes, which conservatives are correct in saying you're never going to get away from the fact that at various points in everyone's life, everyone is an asshole, and what are you going to do about that? How do you navigate a system when generations of people are coming into and falling away from a certain form of wisdom, and in order to get to that point of wisdom, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to think that the problem is other people's attitudes, and they're going to try to use force to fix the problems that they see. And I think that's the problem that has to be addressed, and that's where wisdom comes into the equation in terms of systemic response to individual problems. can't have a perfect utopia, but I still say, and this is an aim small, miss small sort of issue. And see, this is why I think that this format, this is cool and all, and I'm like I said, I'm making the videos in this format because of the time that I have, and I want to do a video on exactly why the time constraints are what they are in my particular situation, and why they're probably a similar factor for most people in this culture. But I think that it's not the ideal format at all. And again, me doing these videos is more for me learning the process and getting in the habit. It's not like I think that I'm sharing something that somebody's going to go, oh, that's the answer we've been waiting for. You know, I think I've got a couple of parts of the equation that may contribute to some of those aha moments to somebody somewhere down the road. But this format is not the ideal format. It's difficult for me to force a lot of these overlapping ideas into the 10 minutes that it takes me to drive to work in the morning at dark 30. So anyway, now I'm at work.